Hey guys, welcome to Contest Prep University. I'm Joe Klemczewski, back at you with another feature. And I have a great friend of mine. I have known Tyler Viars for quite some time, way more than a decade, I think, at this point. So how you doing, Tyler?
Good, Joe. How are you?
All right, man. Well, for those who may not know you, you were at one time the training director at the Diet Doc Global Headquarters in Evansville, Indiana.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, right out of college. Actually, it's kind of funny how that works. I hired you as my coach for bodybuilding. I won my first show in 2010. And then after I graduated from Auburn University, you then hired me to move to Evansville, where I was the fitness director for the Diet Doc.
And then, yeah, and then you escaped, man. It's hard to keep people in Evansville. That's that's why we ultimately moved our headquarters to San Diego and Nashville. So you are forgiven. I understand why you had to leave.
I appreciate that, Joe. Thanks.
All right, man. Well, Tyler, one of the things that struck me most when I hired you in the first place was your level of excitement, your passion, your ambition. You know, you moved all the way from Ohio down to Auburn University to engage in a degree in exercise science. And you were just one of those guys who you lived it and you loved it. And I could see that in your eyes. I knew this was going to be something that you spend your entire life pursuing. So in the meantime, another thing people will be surprised to know about, I hope, is that you were a finalist on MasterChef. So not only are you a good Midwestern boy who goes to the big city and ends up with a degree in exercise science, and you're pursuing strength coaching, but you're a foodie, man. You love to sit in the kitchen and make stuff that is great to eat.
Yeah, Joe. I wasn't given the name Tank based on why I was built now, or how I was built now, I should say. So my first, I've told this story a million times. My first real memory of food was I was a short little fat kid. I'm the oldest of three. I've got two younger brothers, the oldest of three. And my job was to stand up on a kitchen chair. And my mom, Midwestern wife and mother, she would always bake cookies, chocolate chip cookies, which that's kind of how I got started. So she would allow me to stand up on the kitchen chair. And my job was to pour the chocolate chips into mom's cookie batter. And in turn, being the short little fat kid I was, she gave me a little side bowl of cookie dough, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, the cookies baked, I thought I'd done, I thought I was the one who made them. And then I got to feed my brothers and my dad, and to see that reward and satisfaction from them enjoying the cookies, that kind of launched me into my passion for food. And and quickly learned too, I mean, if you can't expect in this day and age, the woman is no longer the one who cooks everything. So
right.
That's where I go.
Well done. Well played on that point.
Yeah.
We are a progressive podcast here.
That's right.
So what a great thing. So one of the things, my last 10 years or so studying neurobiology and social psychology, anthropology, all that, you just jogged my memory into attachment theory, which I love. And total side note, just we can drop this as soon as I say it, but we learn to love how we are loved. And so what a great expression for you to learn that, hey man, I can use food to make people happy. It brings them joy, brings a whole family together. Everybody's smiling. And now look what you do. That's what you love to do for other people. You like to give that gift to other families. That's amazing to see.
Well, and I think it's important, and I don't want to go too far off the beaten path, but I think it's very important in this day and age. It didn't matter where I was at 3, 4, 5 o'clock. My butt was sitting at the kitchen table with my family every day at dinner time. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter. There was no back then, I say back then as it were, 5 decades ago, but just 15 years ago, there were no cell phones at the table. To this day, when I go home for the holidays we still have our assigned seats at the table. And granted, now we have girlfriends and wives and kids, but we still have our assigned seat.
Yeah.
And my dad still says a blessing, and that's how it goes. And I think in today's world, we need to reinstill that. And that's what I love. That's what I love about food. It brings people together. And my direction with the same way with training, we typically have a group or a tribe of people we train with that are brought together at a certain amount, or a certain period of time of the day.
Well, it's something I'm exploring right now in this, in my latest book I'm writing. I have a section about values-based dieting, values-based eating. And that's part of it. It's not just about macros and weight loss or how you look, body composition. We should still have some center of our food life that revolves around values. And that's exactly what you're describing. So, so tell me all about that. How did you go from, Auburn University, diet doc training director, now you're back in Ohio, to being on MasterChef? Because that is not a small deal. I mean, how many tens of thousands of people want to be on that show? And you made it all the way deep into the top 10. So tell us how that came about.
All right. So I love the Food Network, love all the cooking shows. I'm a big advocate, big watcher of those. So at the time I was living in Greensboro, North Carolina. And of all things, this will kind of jog the listeners. But one of my friends was the host. For those who don't know, I also filmed hunting for ESPN2 and the Outdoor Channel for 10 years. So one of the hosts of the shows that I filmed for knew I loved to cook. And this was right at the beginning of the Instagram craze. So I was posting pictures of my food that I was making. I was literally feeding my apartment complex in Greensboro, North Carolina. I was feeding the apartment managers. And they were talking, we'd have barbecues by the pool and all this. Well, I kept posting these pictures. One of my friends, his wife was a big watcher of MasterChef. And she said, "You've got to try out for this show. It's all about home cooks." And I'm like, "No, I've got a full-time job." I was a sales rep, so I was busy all the time. And she's like, "You've got to do it." Well, finally, her gumption, she sent me where they were auditioning, and they were auditioning in Columbus, Ohio. So I'm like, "All right, I'll buy in. I'll do it. Damn it. Just okay, whatever." So anyway, I'm living in North Carolina. That's the barbecue belt. So I kind of cut my teeth, started developing and practicing barbecue. I was traveling. North Carolina was part of my territory. So I was traveling the entire state, sampling while on the road, all these different types of barbecue within this small region. So I, in turn, brought that back to Columbus, Ohio, where I auditioned. I smoked a pork butt for 21 hours, took it up to Columbus. I had it in this big giant cooler wrapped, and I took bath towels, wrapped bricks that I heated to 500 degrees and set them in the bottom of the cooler. For those who don't know, the cooler is also a hot box. Aha moment for you. So I put it in this cooler, and I made my mom, I still call it today, Mama B's coleslaw. It's the best coleslaw in the world. My opinion, I guess. And I'm wearing this shirt up to Columbus. It's Ohio State football Saturday too. For those who don't know, I'm a diehard Ohio State fan. So I was wearing Ohio State, my Ohio State hat, Buckeyes, and I was wearing this shirt that said, "I like pig butts and I cannot lie." So you get up there and you're in a room no bigger than probably twice the size of a normal bedroom. It's a small room inside the conference center, and we're like 60 people are in this room. And we have a 3-foot area where we can plate, and it's a big oval of people. And they count you down. Basically, there's a casting director and a taster. So one person is interviewing, the other person is tasting your food. And for those who don't know, when they told us to start plating, I popped the cooler open. And for those who don't know, barbecue will take over a room. I mean, it just, the smell of smoke permeates the entire room. So automatically I got people looking at me. So instead of just doing traditional chopping the barbecue, I cut it into competition cuts. And I also I have an Ohio State platter. I put the bowl of coleslaw, hit the bowl with the coleslaw. And then I also took, to pay homage to where I was from, Ohio, my favorite mustard on earth is Bertman's Ballpark Stadium mustard out of Cleveland, Ohio. So I made a barbecue sauce out of that. Plus I made a barbecue sauce native to Eastern Carolina, so a vinegar sauce. So when the judges came, I had 2 shot glasses, popped bottles of the barbecue sauce and squirted them in the shot glasses. Again, you got the presentation. I always say you might be able to cook like Wolfgang Puck, but if you don't have personality, you're not going to MasterChef.
Yeah.
Anyway, they tasted it, and the next day they asked me to come back for on-camera interviews. Well, this is where I think I really kind of wowed them, because we go into a hotel room for on-camera interviews, and they're sitting there talking amongst themselves, and I wired myself up with a wireless mic. Again, I'd been around camera for 10 years. But I joke, for most people, if you want to hear the loudest person in the room shut up, put a camera in their face, because they stammer and stutter around because they're not used to talking to a camera. Well, I had that experience.
Yeah. I remember when you first had this opportunity, you called me and we had this conversation about like what does it now take to get through? And that's exactly the conversation we had. It's like, you have to build a persona. You have to be a character. And that was your thing. Like right now, your company name, you have created a lifestyle brand called Barbells BBQ. So you weren't hiding the fact that you're a big, strong weightlifter, powerlifting coach kind of guy. You also love to hunt. You had just come off 10 years of filming for ESPN and the Outdoor Channel. You were working for Realtree. So you got that hunter vibe, that Midwest. So you wore camo.
I always joke, Yeah,
Every single time you were in front of that camera, you were always in camo and you were that guy. That's the kind of consistency that I think a lot of people miss in any kind of business. And you know, this being Contest Prep University, we have a lot of competitors watching us. We also have a lot of coaches. And I think that's an important lesson that you just nailed, Tyler, and you continue to nail, is that you are so consistent with that one thing that you do.
People are going to try to rattle you. I'll use that again. MasterChef, we weren't allowed to wear anything branded. Obviously, you know, we're on live television on Fox. We weren't allowed to wear anything, but multiple times they tried to get me to change my shirt, wear some kind of Hollywood camouflage shirt. I don't know. I'm not into all that frou-frou stuff, but whatever. They tried to get me to wear different clothing, but I stuck to it. I told them no. And that's, looking back now, it's pretty bold on me to tell a casting producer for Fox that I'm not changing my wardrobe. So, but yeah, and I recognize that very quickly. On any reality television show, you always have people from LA, New Orleans, New York City, all these big cities. Mm-hmm. But for a guy from Wilmington, Ohio, a town of 9,000 people, there's a lot more small dots in this big country than there are big ones. So if I could speak to the small dots, I knew I'd get a good following. And that was my goal. My goal was to obviously make my hometown proud, but also to make the small dots around the country proud.
Okay, so we've established you are a movie star. You're destined for that someday. But I also want to talk about why you've been able to accomplish so much in terms of your physique. I mean, you've been on the bodybuilding stage. You know, people walk in the gym and they see you benching 14,000 pounds and they say, man, that guy, you know, he's got a physique, he's strong. But speaking about flexible dieting and nutrition and body composition and performance goals, you use food not just to have a great social life and make people happy. You use great food to still condition your body the way you want. So talk about how you can still make things taste great and be that decadent, but still, you know, have the physique you want, have the health you want.
Well, I think that's just it. If the food tastes like crap, I'm not eating it. So I've utilized just like training. Cooking is practice. The more you practice, the better you're going to get. Somebody who says I can't cook, that's bogus. That's a cop out. So I essentially do what anybody else does. I get on the internet, figure out what I want, and then I recreate that to fit my target. But that's the whole premise behind Barbells and BBQ, is I want people to realize that they don't have to be on this chicken rice broccoli meal plan to achieve their physique. They can enjoy food. I eat brisket all the time, but again, it's a budget. Some people can afford a Lamborghini, some people can't afford a Pinto, and you have to realize where you fit on that scale and learn to budget. I always joke, I'm a carnivore, so a bread guy. I'd rather have a fatty cut of brisket and leave the bread aside, but that's my preference. Somebody else might want a sandwich, so they might have to go pulled chicken or something along those lines. But picking and choosing my battles, again, we know this. If I know I went out last night with my girlfriend, I had fried mushrooms, but I budgeted for that all day, knowing that was coming. So I think that's the big thing, is our society is we have an all or nothing mentality, and we know we deal with this from a professional standpoint. People blow it and they're like, oh, well, I blew the day. Well, no, you didn't. You can budget your way back into where you want to be.
Well, I think this is the right time for somebody like you to really break through, because, you know, as a company, the Diet Doc has been doing this for 25 years. We introduced it to the market in terms of flexible dieting and if it fits your macros, that kind of food budgeting premise. But it's really getting a lot of deeper conversation and play right now. If you're familiar with Eric Helms, Lauren Conlon, people like that, they are really taking a hard look at, you know, what it means to say, I like to diet flexibly versus following meal plans, and even looking at, Tyler, you know, macronutrient-based budgets. You know, who is to say that this is what you have to do every day? Since your energy needs are changing, what if you use a little bit more of an intuitive plan? What if you did have 50 grams more carbs today because you were just hungry, you did a huge, you know, leg workout, and then tomorrow you're 25 grams short? I mean, looking at it in more of a, you know, kind of a longer metric instead of just daily, so that you can have some social and some biological intuition mixed into your eating.
Yeah, I completely agree. Prime example, it just happened to me last week. still a little congested. Not the coronavirus, but I believe I had
maybe not.
maybe
We'll
not.
find
Maybe
out.
I beat that sucker either way, whatever. So, but I did not have an appetite. Today is the first day, and I deadlifted today. Strength was a little down, but I woke up this morning starving. And yet, even yesterday, I said I went out to eat, but I didn't have an appetite. So I was probably way under. I know I was way under calorically the past 3 or 4 days. And this morning, for the first time, I woke up and I was ready to eat breakfast. I was hungry. So I think that, and I tell clients, I tell friends that all the time. It's not. We're so focused on the day to day. Just like I tell people to weigh yourself daily and collect that average.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we can stay within that average, it's not linear. So, we do. Our expenditure changes day to day based on activity, based on meat, based on all these other things. And for us to recognize that is very important, because I think general population, they get so focused on what is currently happening and they don't look at the big picture.
Right. Well, before we transition and talk about your training life a little bit, let me wrap up just by talking about Barbells and BBQ a little bit, because I know you are, working toward a couple things. On your behalf, I've even spoken to a meal prep company. I would love to see a Barbells and BBQ food line available to everybody in the country. You've got some things like maybe, rubs and barbecue sauces that you're going to be in development to getting on grocery store shelves. But right now, when people see Tyler Viars, MasterChef finalist, exercise science graduate, strength coach, people want your food. And so are you getting into kind of the restaurant business? Or I know you talked about that at one time, the food truck industry. What's your next big move there?
So literally just happened. I'm working on, for those who don't know, I did run a food truck. I ran a food truck for 3 years. Went great. So I know success is there. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually working with the bank, get my smoker. The smoker's the big ticket item, right? Getting my smoker. And I'm going to start off small as more like a tailgate setup. So pop-up tent, table, smoker, and sell meat by platters, sandwiches by the pound, et cetera, et cetera.
When you say small, this is still a commercial thing. This is you feeding people at music festivals and sporting events, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's what I love. So I've been back of the house. I've worked back of the house in restaurants. That's fun. You have your team, which, I think, again, we're all tribal. We like the team. But when I get face-to-face interaction with people, when they get to touch, look, feel, see, smell, see all those things, that's what I love. So I want to go mobile. Maybe down the road, restaurant, brick and mortar, but I want people to see me. I want to be able to converse with them as I'm fixing their food, as I'm building their brisket quesadilla, piling it on. They can come watch. They can see. I love that. And it allows me to express my passion, and they get to see what I'm doing. So,
that's just awesome, man. Barbells and BBQ, that's going to be big.
It's not. Barbells and BBQ is not a brand. It's a movement.
All right.
So
okay. So you also, as I said, you went to Auburn. You're a strength and performance coach. I think you even work with kids. Parents see you in a gym. They see what you're doing with other clients. You're like, hey, will you train little Johnny for the football team? He wants a scholarship. He wants to go play for Ohio State. Tell me what you're doing. You're a busy guy. You're doing a lot of things. So what do you love to do still in the strength and performance game?
So obviously, bodybuilding is still a love of mine, just because that's the foundation. I think that's where a lot of us start. So I love to compete, and actually I have I'm a USAPL competitor, so I compete in the Ohio State Championships March 28th. Again, a little worried about it. My strength was down this week just due to illness, but it'll bounce back. And then I'm very fortunate to be well known in my little space, my little town, for a multitude of things. A, the cooking, and then B, the training. Every day I get asked about training, and it goes back to what we talked about earlier. I'm very regimented. You have kids at the gym, and we all learn. I think not just from an educational standpoint, from a experience standpoint. I help kids with warm up, mobility. I've been there. 20 years old, you're wanting to get in there, right? Jump right on the bench press and get to going. And now, for being older in my 30s, I'm like, you know what? Let's take a step back, warm up, and here's what I can do to help your performance. And so that's what I like to do. I think it goes back to my entire personality, I love pleasing people. And if I can feed people, if I can help people reach their ultimate goal through performance, that melts my heart. That's what I love.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned a couple things, and you created kind of a timeline. You said, back when I was a kid, this is how dinner was, and then you also mentioned the boom of social media, and I think your entire professional career spans the beginning of social media and where it is today. So, looking back to when you were in college and you were studying exercise science, and here's what I may want to do with my career. Right at that time is when Facebook takes off, and then Instagram and everything else. How do you see the industry changing, and where do you see your place now? What's the best way as a coach or even a client, a competitor, to really traverse the world we're in right now?
That's funny. So I remember signing up for Facebook my freshman year of college and had like 3 friends. So yeah, that was 2004. So to tell you where we come, social media is the vehicle for, I think one-on-one personal training thing. I think those will still be around, but I think that's dissolving. We have so much access to information now. You talk about Eric Helms, or you talk about Greg Knuckles, or you talk about yourself. I mean, we can get right on the internet and go Google, or I can follow you on Instagram and get a lot of information. We can self-educate. I love education. I joke, if college were free, I'd never stop. I would go forever. But we have such a vast variety of, we can follow anyone and get the information we want. I mean, so I think the future, unfortunately, the future of education is going to be surrounded by social media. It's going to be social media, but it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because we have our Insta famous people who don't have that education, but influencers can blind the public. So that's the scary part. We follow someone and think because they have 500,000 followers that they know what they're talking about, when really they're blowing smoke trying to make money.
Yeah, I agree completely. You nailed the exact antithesis of what it could be used for good, and for kind of burying people in disinformation. But I agree. You use the word information, that yes, you love information, you love education, but now it's all free. That's something I've been talking big time about for the last couple of years. It's almost difficult to say, because my company was built on information. We educated people. I wrote for, some of the top fitness magazines in the industry, and then social media completely disrupted that model. And not just a business model, just a model of life, just how we look at information, how we receive it. And so now I think everybody, from the consumer, the client, the competitor, to the coaching world, needs to look at experience as the new novelty. And so by you saying, I want that food truck experience, I want to be that person, on the street, meeting people, talk to them, having that conversation, I believe that is truly more important still, and probably more important because of social media. You still got to have that social media presence. People have to know who you are. That's where you build awareness. But you will not create a deep interaction base, a brand, a company, without being in front of people. I really believe that.
I agree. My mentor, aka you, once told me, when you stop learning, you die.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to live forever, so I don't want to stop learning. But yeah, I think you have to have a presence. And I say blessing and a curse, because the more followers you have, the more lives you touch, the better off you're going to be in the social media world, obviously. Yeah. But you have to have purpose with posts. You have to have a direction. And I think just throwing something up there, either doing it for humor, doing it for information. I mean, you can do it for both, but I think, yeah, your posts have to have a purpose.
Well, hey man, let's wrap up by talking about your training theory. You're getting ready for a big meet yourself. First of all, what kind of numbers are you shooting for? And then tell me how your training has evolved since I was able to train with you, one-on-one.
So numbers wise, typically my training is basically like an undulated periodization. So my bench is by far my best movement. I always joke I'm well balanced. I mean, I could almost flip upside down and walk on my hands. So because my squat is about a 500-pound squat. So, I mean, respectable, but not very high. I'm competing at 93 kilos, so 205 for you non-metric folk. And deadlift, pushing the 600 mark, we'll see. I mean, I'm shooting for at least above a 570 on my deadlift, and then my bench, I'm shooting for a double body weight on my bench press. So that's kind of
nice.
I mean, it's always been something I can rely on. I joked with somebody earlier this morning at the gym, me being not 100% sick and down, I can always count on my bench press. Like I can go in there and okay, I can knock out bench, but squat and deadlift make me nervous.
Which is not normal. I mean, for somebody, it's usually the opposite. Everybody says, yeah, my bench is awful.
Right. No, but yeah, my structure, I work with Mike Teixeira on my programming. He helps me out a lot. So reactive training systems there, but it's yeah, it's fun. Just being, I think, growing up an athlete, I think having that ability to compete in something I love is
absolutely
fun.
So in the last few years, have you seen much of a change? The big push, a lot of the exercise science research coming out with more of a total volume in a week experience being the load variable that's most important versus maximum intensity. Do you find yourself training more frequently but with a little less intensity?
Yeah. So especially with undulated periodization, I can balance my volume out throughout the week. So I mean, and there are days that now, for example, today I worked up to a heavy single today. From an RP standpoint, I mean, for those who don't know, rate of perceived exertion, an 8 RP on deadlift, so which is 495. Actually moved a lot better than an 8 RP today. But yeah, so I'll have days where I push the needle, but also know, and that's what's great about RP. If I'm not feeling well, I can back it off. It's again that day to day. I love the quote. Strength is not measured over time; it's measured in an instant. So there are days where you come in, you feel you slept the best night of your life, and you come in the gym and you're fired up and you're ready to go. Those are the days you can push it, but knowing when to back off. And I'm not that rigid. So if I'm supposed to squat heavy today, but yet I'm not feeling well, I might do my other squat variation, my pause squats, my pin squats, flip flop those days to where I'll push my intensity, my higher intensity day down throughout the week when I am feeling more recovered and better. So it's knowing, again, that's the educational point. That's the experience point. Knowing when to back off and knowing when to crank the throttle.
Yeah, man, it's what it always comes down to is those nuances and knowing how to be an artist with that information.
But yeah, and I joke with this thing, and the kids at the gym joke and make fun of me all the time because I don't veer. There's not a day where I'm going to come in and say, hey, I'm going to max out today. I don't. I save those for the platform. And, I think that's something we learn as we age too, is that they know that I'm not going to come in and do something outlandish. If I'm a 400-pound bencher, and if my program said today you're going to do 3 sets of 3 with 95 pounds, I would be doing 3 sets of 3 with 95 pounds. Stick to, you plan, you stick to the plan. So if you don't have a plan, you will fail.
Awesome. All right, man. Tyler Viars, Barbells BBQ. Thanks for being with me today. It's been an amazing conversation. I look forward to seeing you in person again soon. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has, buddy. I appreciate you having me on, and love the podcast.
Okay, man. Well, we'll get all your information in the show notes so people can contact you. And everybody watching, listening, thanks. We'll see you next time in another Contest Prep University feature.